7 years ago, there was an incredibly beautiful anime. It was called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Many people thought it was a horror film, but in reality, it's a story about life and love. The plot of this story doesn't have huge twists or turns, but it's this simple, quiet story that ended up moving countless people. She was the kind of girl who even smiled while taking a bath. She smiled when she ate, smiled when she read, and even smiled after being diagnosed with a terminal illness. She was cheerful, warm, and always willing to help others. She was the most popular girl in class. When she saw the weak being bullied, she would always step up and defend them. And yet, this passionate, radiant girl had only a little time left to live. Her name was Sakura. After learning about her illness, she didn't tell anyone because she didn't want anyone's pity. She went to school and came home just like before, always wearing a smile. She wanted to spend the last days of her life living like a normal person, until one day, Sakura accidentally left her diary at the hospital, and it just so happened that Haruki picked it up. Out of curiosity, he flipped through a few pages, and that's how he found out about Sakura's illness. Sakura had thought that once Haruki read her diary, he'd be shocked and overwhelmed, and immediately try to comfort her with sympathy. But to her surprise, Haruki didn't do any of that. He calmly handed the diary back to her, and simply walked away. That reaction was exactly why Sakura felt he was different from everyone else. From that day on, she started sticking to Haruki, even though they were classmates. They had never spoken a single word to each other before, because Haruki was the total opposite of Sakura. He was withdrawn and emotionally distant, rarely interacting with anyone, and didn't have a single friend in class. Sakura asked Haruki not to tell anyone about her condition. Haruki agreed right away, because even if he wanted to say something, no one would have cared to listen. After learning that Haruki had no friends, Sakura told him, "I'll use the rest of my life to keep you company." Haruki thought she was just joking, so he told Sakura that she should just live her life however she wanted. But to his surprise, the very next day, Sakura actually came to him. She helped him organize books in the library. No matter what he was doing, she stuck close by. She even shared things she'd seen on TV, saying that when someone's organs are sick, they eat the same organ from animals, and that could cure the illness. Then, with a serious look, she told Haruki, "I want to eat your pancreas." Even though it sounded like a joke, Sakura really did have something she wanted to ask of Haruki. She took out her diary from her bag. Inside was her bucket list. In the final days of her life, she wanted Haruki to help her complete it. Haruki hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. And so, they went to a barbecue restaurant together and ordered plate after plate of animal organs. Just like the rumor said, that eating the same organ could heal a sick one. Haruki thought this kind of treatment was ridiculous, but he didn't understand how desperately someone facing death could long to live. Sakura said there was another rumor, that if someone's pancreas was eaten by another, their soul would live on inside that person's heart. Haruki couldn't imagine how someone as loud and lively as Sakura could be terminally ill, but maybe it was exactly because of Haruki's indifference to everything that Sakura could forget, just for a moment, the fear of dying. She just wanted to be a normal girl. On their way home, they came across an elderly woman being harassed. Haruki chose to ignore it, but Sakura stepped in to help. And it was at that moment that Haruki realized this girl, who seemed kind of weird and hyper, was actually a kind and compassionate soul. In the days that followed, Sakura completely turned into Haruki's little shadow. Every day, she stuck to him as they worked through her bucket list. Haruki wasn't someone who knew how to say no, so he just kept her company, checking things off one by one. The sea breeze gently lifted Sakura's hair, and under the setting sun, she smiled so brightly. Looking at such an optimistic Sakura, Haruki couldn't help but ask, "Are you really going to die?" Sakura told him that when she first found out she was sick, she cried in despair. She just couldn't accept the fact that she had a terminal illness. But as time passed, she slowly realized, instead of spending her remaining days in sorrow, she might as well enjoy the present. She didn't like people comforting her out of pity, which was why she chose Haruki, because only he wouldn't treat her like a patient. In the time she had left, all she wanted was to live the most ordinary life possible. She said she also wanted to have a boyfriend. Haruki's face instantly turned red. He couldn't tell if Sakura was confessing to him, and he didn't even realize that this cheerful, sunny girl was quietly changing the lonely person he used to be. Before long, summer break arrived, and Sakura brought Haruki along on a vacation trip. They acted like a couple, trying delicious food together, enjoying the scenery, shopping for clothes at the mall. All of these seemingly normal things were actually part of Sakura's bucket list. That night, because of a mistake in the hotel booking, they ended up sharing a single room. Sakura jokingly told Haruki to sleep in the same bed, but he flatly refused. Even though they had a great time during the day, when it came to feelings, he took things very seriously. While taking a bath, Sakura asked him to help her find her face wash, but the moment Haruki opened Sakura's backpack, he realized just how close to death she really was. Inside were all sorts of syringes and a bunch of pills. Even though the bag was light in weight, he couldn't imagine how much pain Sakura must be enduring every day. Sakura stood by the window looking a little lonely, but the moment she saw Haruki watching her, she quickly put on a smile again. To kill time, they started playing Truth or Dare. Sakura slowly opened up under the buzz. She said she once loved someone deeply, and that person had loved her too, but his controlling nature made her feel suffocated. Eventually, she had no choice but to break up. Through their conversation, Haruki began to understand more about Sakura's past, and also started to see why she chose to live so brightly. Because the ones who care the most often act like they care the least. Then they started playing a game of dare, and Sakura asked for a princess carry. This time, Haruki didn't refuse. He gently carried Sakura and laid her down on the bed, then turned to tidy up the table. But just then, Sakura suddenly asked, "If I die, what would you do?" Haruki didn't know how to respond. Suddenly, he felt really sorry for Sakura, and sadness crept into his heart. That night, he did end up sleeping on the bed, but the two of them lay back to back, unable to sleep at all. The trip eventually came to an end. As they parted, Sakura said she wanted to travel again during winter break. This time, Haruki didn't hesitate. He agreed on the spot. It was as if he was already looking forward to seeing her again. After that trip, Haruki suddenly realized he had changed. He looked forward to her messages every day, looked forward to seeing her radiant smile. But when he returned to school, the first person to approach him was Sakura's best friend, Kyoko. Kyoko didn't know about Sakura's illness. She just thought Haruki was the most antisocial person in the class, and didn't want her best friend getting too close to someone like him, especially after hearing about the trip they took alone, which the entire class already knew about. She felt that Haruki had deceived Sakura. Haruki didn't explain. In fact, he didn't want to explain. After school, Sakura invited Haruki over to her house. While they were playing video games, Sakura suddenly asked him if he'd ever thought about having her as a girlfriend. Haruki's heart skipped a beat, but he still answered no. Seeing his reaction, Sakura said that was a relief. Haruki felt like she was teasing him again, so he got angry and stood up to leave. But to his surprise, Sakura hugged him from behind. In that moment, Haruki felt conflicted inside, facing a girl whose life was about to end. He didn't know how much time they really had left, but he finally made a decision to stay by her side and protect her with everything he had. Just as he leaned in to kiss her, Sakura suddenly burst out laughing. That's when Haruki realized she was messing with him again. Embarrassed and frustrated, he lost control and pinned her down on the bed. His sudden reaction startled Sakura, and she even started to cry. Her tears snapped Haruki back to reality. Panicking, he ran out of the room. Haruki began to reflect. He felt deeply ashamed of his impulsiveness, but he didn't know how to face Sakura after that. And just then, Sakura's ex-boyfriend suddenly showed up in front of him. He spoke rudely, and even punched Haruki. Luckily, Sakura showed up in time. Haruki started to believe he should have never connected with anyone. He should have just stayed in his own world. If he had, they never would have met at the hospital, never would have gotten involved, and none of this pain would have happened. But Sakura believed their meeting was something they both chose. It was meant to happen, and it needed to happen. Now, all she wanted was for Haruki to spend more time with her, to be there with her for the rest of her short life. Haruki was moved by her words. Even though he didn't think he could do much for Sakura, he still made a final decision to protect the fragile girl in front of him. As more items on Sakura's bucket list were checked off, the two of them grew closer and closer. But sadly, it wasn't long before Sakura's condition worsened. and she was hospitalized again. Haruki rushed to see her right away. They talked about old memories and what it really means to be alive. From beginning to end, Sakura always believed that Haruki shouldn't live the way he did. To her, living meant connecting with others, not facing pain all alone. If one day she was gone, she hoped Haruki could live like she did, talking to others, opening up. Sakura's hospital stay was extended, which meant the time they had left together was getting shorter. That night, Sakura mysteriously led Haruki up a mountain. She wanted him to help her complete the final item on her list, but Haruki was furious that she left the hospital on her own. All he wanted now was for Sakura to live longer, just a little longer. Haruki's words touched Sakura deeply, and just then, fireworks lit up the sky in the distance. It turned out, this was the last thing on her list, to watch the beautiful fireworks with the person she loved. The glowing lights reflected on their faces. In that moment, it felt like there was no illness, no death, only the warmth between the two of them. But as beautiful as fireworks are, they vanish in the blink of an eye. The two promised that once Sakura's condition stabilized, they'd go out together again. Soon, the day came for Sakura to be discharged from the hospital. Haruki had changed a lot by then. He smiled more and started opening up to others. The old him wouldn't say a word to his classmates, but now, he could casually accept a piece of gum from someone. Just like Sakura said, living means connecting with others, and though pain may come along with that connection, it's something everyone has to experience. The more you fear connection, the more you trap yourself in your own world. Sakura never set out to change Haruki, but her attitude toward life ended up changing him, little by little. Haruki arrived at the cafe, his heart full of joy as he waited for Sakura. He wanted to tell her, "I like you," but he was too shy and didn't know how to say it. Then he remembered the legend Sakura once told him, so he typed out a message, "I want to eat your pancreas," though the sentence sounds strange. According to the legend, if someone eats another person's pancreas, that person's soul will live forever inside them. He waited at the cafe until dusk, but Sakura never showed up. Back home, Haruki kept checking his phone over and over, hoping for a reply from Sakura. Then, all of a sudden, the news came on with a report. A girl had been murdered, and that girl was Sakura. Sakura was dead. She didn't die from her illness. She was killed by a serial killer. The news said she died while trying to help someone else. The girl she saved survived, but Sakura was murdered by the criminal. Haruki's whole body went limp. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't even stand up. The pain was so overwhelming, it was hard to breathe. He was filled with regret, wishing he had confessed to her sooner. At Sakura's funeral, Kyoko cried her heart out, but Haruki didn't go. He locked himself in his room, reading book after book, trying to distract himself. He even began to wonder if he had any emotions at all, because all this time, he hadn't shed a single tear. What he didn't realize was, after a major emotional trauma, the brain often enters a protective mode to keep the body from breaking down. After thinking for a long time, Haruki finally accepted the truth. He went to Sakura's house to pay his respects. To his surprise, Sakura's mother recognized him right away, because Sakura once told her that she had a friend who was very shy. So shy, he might not even come to her funeral. According to Sakura's last wishes, her mother handed Haruki the diary and her phone. That was when Haruki finally realized. Even before they met at the hospital, Sakura had been quietly watching him, but back then, she didn't have the courage to speak to him. Until later, because of that diary, their connection finally began. The diary recorded all of their memories together. All the moments they shared came flooding back into Haruki's mind. He missed that smiling girl so much, but still, no tears came until he reached the very last page and saw the words, "I want to eat your pancreas." That's when he couldn't hold it in anymore. He cried like a child. Sakura had gone to another world, but she would forever live in Haruki's heart. In the final days of her life, two people with completely different personalities chose to walk together. That was their choice, not fate. Later on, Haruki told Kyoko everything about Sakura's illness and how they saved each other. But after hearing the truth, Kyoko got angry at Haruki. She regretted not being there to support her best friend during her final days. She blamed Haruki for not telling her the truth sooner. But this time, Haruki didn't retreat into silence. He ran after her, Hoping Kyoko would forgive him, Haruki had made a choice. He no longer stayed quiet, no longer feared connecting with others. As time passed, Haruki changed his hairstyle. He visited Sakura's grave with Kyoko. By now, the two had become friends. Haruki spoke with more confidence, and even cracked a joke with Kyoko. For a moment, he felt like Sakura was right there beside him, but when he saw the gravestone beneath the cherry tree, he realized something. Sakura hadn't come back. It was his heart that had become Sakura. "I want to eat your pancreas meant I love you." It was the gentlest confession, and maybe, in Haruki's heart, that smiling girl had become a beam of light, forever shining within him.